first and foremost, I'll just get started on at first let me see here. So this is actually a seminar that we did last week, me and Ali, on how to get staged in. So I mean, how you get ready for a photo shoot would be pretty much exactly the same way. Now, the one thing that we got to take in consideration first is that if you haven't done it, do it yourself first, right? Don't just attempt to prep someone if you haven't done it yourself, because you will never know what it's like to feel 2-3 weeks out, want to eat your arm off, and be so hungry that you just become an angry gremlin to everyone and anyone. So first things, like key considerations that you got to take on board just before you embark, because you got to remember that this is going to be perhaps an 18-20 week phase. But where's the physique at the current moment? Like, are you holding too much body fat? Are you holding little body fat? Does it need to be a shorter dieting phase? But do you have enough time? Like first-time competitors, right? They often want to prep, they often want to step on stage, but they try and diet with like 14 weeks to go, rather when they might need 18 to 20. And as I said, how much do you need to take off? So as a coach, what we'll always do is sit down at the start, assess, right, okay, I'll always think, right, I need to take off X amount of kilos in total body weight. So, for example, Clara last year, I always use Clara as an example because I prep her. We started prep, Clara was at 56 kilos?
57, yeah, 57.
57, right? And I knew from the year before that our stage weight was 46 kilos, right? So I knew, right, we needed about, I think it was, by the end of it, because we did the British finals and that, originally it was about 16, 18 weeks, Clara?
18, yeah.
Right, okay, so heck of a long time. But that's because I knew Clara from the year before. So we had some valuable information. And 11 kilos in 16 weeks is still a fucking lot off. And you ended up being, 45 by the end of it?
Yeah.
Other things that you need to take into consideration as well is just the mental toughness. Is someone actually got the fucking bollocks to diet for that long and to not give in? And ladies, I'm speaking to you as well. Relationship with food, huge one, right? People will want to prep, want to get lean, but love a fucking chalky biscuit way more than that, right? Their want isn't as much as what they're willing to apply themselves. And then a major one that people don't often think about is your personal life in order? What I mean by that, right? Are you going through a breakup, right? Are you perhaps moving house? Do you have a holiday, in 2 months and preps 5 months total? And then other things as well, just like, is their training intensity high at all times? Can they be consistent? Natural assisted is a huge one. And yeah, that one, I put it in there as a joke, just simply because as a prep coach, you got to be willing, or you got to tell your client, understand that, especially a bikini girl, just not going to be able to eat a lot of food, right, to get lean. But what they must be willing to do is go low with calories. Like you'll soon see here, Clara's calories last year were not very high, right? But she was willing to do that because of what what it was going to take. And these are just some other points that I said before I go into the nutrition. As I said, longer the better. If it's perhaps figure, bodybuilding, men's physique or whatnot, enough time so you could trial some carb loads. And as a first-time competitor, you're going to have to, or as a coach for a first-time competitor, you're going to have to sit them down and tell them what's going to happen. Like, for example, we've spoken about in previous webinars before that you're going to have to tell perhaps your partner, listen, I'm going to be a little bit different. I might act a certain way and whatnot. And you're going to think about food all the time. You're going to drive past the McDonald's billboard and have a mad craving for McDonald's, right? But at the same time, you could drive past a billboard that's got a picture of a fucking apple and all you want to do is eat apples, right? Given realistic expectations, like, don't tell people, hey bro, we're going to look sick, we're going to win, if they're going to look shit, right? Or if perhaps they can maybe do a low-level qualifier or a low-level fed, give them a realistic, I wouldn't call it expectation, but realistic sort of what can be achieved, perhaps the better word. Menstrual cycle for females is a big one. And then for us, and I suppose for any real prep coach, is that get training footage. Just make sure that they're actually training fucking hard. So this was the big one, right? But I thought I'd go to that first. So we're not going to get into how to work out your macros, right? Because you guys all know how to do that now. And if you don't, message one of us and we can talk about it privately, or asking the Q&A chat. Just where are calories at just now with the time frame you've got, and also where are body fat levels. Now, when you kind of decide the total amount you need to take off, you have a starting point, but then over time it gets less and it gets less and it gets less. If you were using an equation, you could either use lean body mass or total body weight to work out calories. If it was going to be someone that was very, very lean, perhaps males under 12%, females under 20, I would use 11.5 pounds or 11.5 times per pound of body weight. Right, that'll all make sense here soon. So everything weighed and tracked, minus green veg at the start. Ali, you've got background noise. Don't know what's going on. TV in there. Training day, non-training day calories. Are you going to go sort of 2-tier, 3-tier? Again, completely depends on the client, how many calories they're on. You'll soon see that Clara was even on a 3-tier structure. I think it was 7 weeks out. She'll know better, the numbers better than me. Peri-workout nutrition, if I'm honest, for bikini girls, are you going to do peri-workout nutrition? Really depends, because their calories probably aren't going to be that high enough for you to do so. For example, when Clara was on 850 calories a day, I couldn't say to her, Clara, see those 40 grams of carbs you're having a day, put them post-workout. It just wouldn't have worked. Adherence is always going to trump optimization, right? So if you're Ali and you're dieting, you eat all your fucking calories an hour before bed, right? If you're me, you structure them throughout the day and you don't eat 3 hours before bed. It gets the same results, but it's just a different process. There's so many different ways you can do it, and no one way is right versus the other. Apart from Ali's is slightly wrong, and of course mine's is the better way to do it. So, all right. Calories will come down periodically over time. I hope that makes sense. Is there any? There is questions in the chat.
No, that was me.
All right. Okay. Cool. That's all good. Right. Continued. So for Clara, we had always ran a 3-tiered structure, and this is sort of how it looked. Can you guys see that, or is our faces in the way? I guess it depends how you're viewing it, right? There we go. So, for example, Clara's, I know these aren't bang on accurate with what you're going to see here at the bottom. I'm just going to make this sort of full. So you'll see here at the bottom of the screen, okay, 1200, and that's like 1190, right? Okay, I tried to get as close as I could, and I was a calorie off on some days. If you look at that, that's how I structure a diet with Clara. Now, Clara, how many weeks out were we at that point? Do you remember?
I think about four-ish. But I mean, the week before, actually, no, this was like about 7-ish weeks, and then at 4 to 3 weeks, that got dropped even lower.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I predicted that it was about 7 weeks out, just looking. So I'm glad that you agree. But why would we do this, right? In essence, I think more so mentally, like just mentally, like right on that day, you get more calories. So they go, fuck, I got more calories. I'm going to train fucking way harder on this day. I'm going to totally beast it. And you put it in on their absolute hardest day, which we all know is legs. And if it's not, you're not training hard enough. But the actual like physiological considerations of why we do it would be that, I mean, Clara's not a male bodybuilder, but if she was, it would aid in keeping body parts a little bit fuller and them not fading on us. So, for example, and Clara, I actually think this worked really well. It was at a point that I said during your prep. I said to you that having more calories on your lower days, we didn't see the glutes fade near as much as we saw the year before.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So that just kind of shows you how much a little more calories will offset muscle protein wasting, which will happen if you're natural. Even if you're assisted, you also got to look at Cal's prep last year. Large dose of insulin for more of an anabolic response. Ali obviously is the master of insulin, and it's why he can fucking get so jacked throughout the year and fucking just be a little bit of a mutant because he can control his insulin. Improved sleeping pattern as well. You won't need as much like food on a non-training day. In fact, actually, that's probably a lie. Sleep will go to shit on a non-training day. Like 3 weeks out, you're not sleeping. In fact, you're not even sleeping on any given day. You maybe are, but it's fucking poor. And then just, as I said, train harder. So across the week, this is kind of how it could look, right? So we've got lower day, 1200. We've got upper, and that would be full upper body for females. If they're a bikini girl, it's going to be more, like let's say if they're IFBB, it's going to be more like shoulders, and like let's face it, that pose is shoulders and glutes and hams. They're not bothered about anything else. So if that was more like a figure girl, then you'd put in a lot more lat work. Days off, cardio would probably still be in there. And then upper, lower, I just gave Clara, I told her to go with upper calories because it saved us calories across the week. How are we doing for time?
It's been 10 to 11 minutes.
Okay, cool. Right, I guess I better hurry this part up. Calculating calories. So as I said, where are the calories at right now? Right, these equations that I'm going to talk about, in all honesty, I don't use them. But everyone asks me, what equations do you use? This is a ballpark figure that if you don't know, if you're attempting a prep on your own, you're attempting to work out your own calories, or you're a coach that's just kind of got in the industry and whatnot, and you want to know, what's a good starting point. These are the equations that I learnt from the guys down at M10 back in 2016. And they formulated a lot of what I worked with for a few years, and then I just found out my own method and own way. And in all honesty, you get to a point as a coach, having worked with so many bodies, that you just know what rough calories should work for what sort of person. But as I said in an earlier slide, 11.5 calories per pound of body weight, but only, like, use total body weight if they're below 12 or 20% body fat for a female. You're going to say, but Vaughn, how do you know? As a coach, you should know visuals, right? And looking at someone. If they're above that, use lean body mass, right? And work it out. So that was the little equation that I used there. Guess who weighed? Okay, you're 56, Clara, but 55 kilos, right? I said your calories were roughly about there, eh?
When
Started prep.
No, they were higher. They were higher, but not for very long.
Yeah, all right. So it just kind of shows you, although that with Clara I didn't use any calories or whatnot, actually when it comes back to the equation, it was pretty damn close. Right? So it just goes to show you the accuracy of these equations. But in all honesty, they can be way off. And when I was making this slide up last year, Ali came at me and said, Vaughn, I'll be honest with you, I don't do any of that. And I went, near the eye, but we needed to give you something. As I said, it can be way off. Dietary changes, just really quickly, I'll go back. Small but effective. You're going to drop off perhaps maybe 25 grams of carbs from each day, or perhaps say 10 grams of fat from a non-training day. About 100 calories across, 100 to 150 calories, much of a change you'll make with food. And of course you can make a change with cardio, which if Ali isn't going to touch on it, I'm going to just jump this on him now and say, Ali, mention something about cardio changes as well, if you could, on your part.
It's in there.
Good. But as I said, you'll drop them depending on progress. By the end of it, calories will be bottomed out. Always keep protein constant. Take calories away from carbs and fats. If someone's willing to, Clara, your fats by the end of it, I think you were on 12 grams one day.
I was minging. Yeah, I was having
exactly that. Cardio changes, I'm going to leave that. But if anyone has any questions on that, I know I kind of blitzed through it, but it's because we have a fuckload to cover. What you can do is just message in the chat anything that you're unsure of, or after this, Instagram, DM myself. So when Clara does her bit and I does her bit, same goes. If after this you think, oh shit, that was a question I want to know, get in touch. But over to, is it Ali next?
Yeah, I'm going next, yep.
Okay, cool.
So I'm covering the training part of it. I'm only going to pull up slides when I get to the actual discussion, because Vaughn's obviously got a slideshow, and just showing you a program isn't as exciting, so you can just look at our faces. The big thing with training is, what I'm going to say is, what's got you in shape will keep you in shape. The amount of times when people start dieting and for some reason they change the principles they've been doing prior, and the amount of times I get bikini girls message me and they're doing some weird 15 to 20 rep giant sets because it's prep and you're burning more calories is crazy. So don't do that. The training with males and females, although they will be different, as Vaughn mentioned, due to areas you need to bring up or areas that are being presented more on stage, the same principles apply. So load the muscle with flawless form and get progressively stronger. You'll be on to a good situation with that. Now, Vaughn also covered this. The biggest thing that people miss, train fucking harder. We all need to do it at times, but once you can get to that point where you are actually going to full intensity, you're going to failure, you're going to be in a far better position. So that is something that I would say a lot of people need to do. And it doesn't matter if you're doing a top set on a hack squat or you're doing a bicep curl, the intensity still needs to be there. Now, what I'll cover first is prioritizing body parts. So we know that depending on what you're competing in, certain body parts will need prioritized more. And that is really important, because when you look at a program, and I will pull one up in a second, but when you look at one, it needs to be prioritized in the areas that need brought up. So for myself on prep last year, my delts didn't need much volume at all, but my chest needed a lot because it was lagging. So that's what we've done. That's the same as my off season. So with the prioritizing, if you don't know how to do that, the simple thing is look at the federation and what class you're doing. It'll be pretty easy to find out what areas need to be brought up. So then also you need to look at what areas respond more. Some people have certain muscles that can get away with quite low volume but will grow, or in a dieting phase will maintain. Other areas need a fair bit more. So once you've been dieting for longer, this becomes easier, but prioritizing volume to the areas that need more is very important. Now, what I've went into next, I'll share my screen as well so you can see it, but what I've went into next is internal feel. Now, people are going to be like, what is he speaking about? But if you're someone who can go in the gym and pretty much off the bat start doing your pull motions and get a lot of activation in your back, then that's great. If you're someone who it takes time to actually get there, I would suggest having in like an activation movement. You'll see a lot of people on Instagram doing them. So if you're going into a pull day, you might do like a lat pull down first rather than aiming for something a bit bigger. And I think this is quite big because everyone's got areas that they struggle to activate as well. They probably need a little bit more time to actually, Bond saying get activation movements in the bin, but he also, by activation movements, by the way, I don't mean we're going to the gym and like grabbing the bands we're using at home and doing stuff. I mean, you're still loading, you're still progressively overloading, but sometimes I personally feel with clients, they're better having movements in that there first. For example, we always do a ham curl before we hack squat. Now that's not because we're activating the muscle, but we're warming up the joint, we're warming up the knees. So that is a big one. And the reason this is because you need to be able to actually use the muscle, not just move a weight. Think about it. How many times you see a guy in the gym squatting 200 kilos for reps and he's got no legs? That's because execution's off. His actual ability to contract isn't there. So on to volume. Now, as I covered earlier, the 15 to 20 rep giant sets that people do. One thing I see with dieting, and I see this a lot when people first start out or their first prep, they automatically think they're dieting, so they need to do more, and they need to think about volume in their program as they get closer to a show goes up and up and up and up. Whereas realistically speaking, we want to actually come down, like volume will come down because training is a stress to the body. Stress is a big indicator of us getting lean. If your stress levels are too high, it becomes quite difficult. So as you're getting closer to show, shoot, whatever, you don't want to be pushing your volume more. You want to actually be pulling it down if needed. That will be person dependent, which I will cover. The big thing is like with volume based stuff, if I bring up my screen, 2 seconds.
Oh, it's not that good with technology. There he goes.
No, I've got it. Don't worry. It's just that. So, for example, in a volume perspective, so my client Manny, he trains in a bit more of like a bodybuilder split than an actual push-pull legs, just because he really enjoys it. He can get away with a lot more volume than I can. There'll be a lot of 3 sets, 2 sets, etc. But as we're dieting down, I'll use me as an example. My lower back goes to shit. So I can't load anything in a hinge position or a squat. Now, it just happens. So what do? I will just pull down sets. Now, I might go from one barbell row to two barbell rows to one, or perhaps none. I might move that to a similar movement. And this is something I think people get really, really scared of, because they automatically think the recovery is short, but they think, oh my God, I can't pull out a set here and there. I can't. And they get really, really protective of it. This is something that myself and Vaughn and Clara have all covered, where you start to pull volume down when people get closer to shows. They start getting leaner because the recovery is better. So that is something you really should look at. Now, how much volume should I do? The best amount of volume is the volume that you can recover from. Everyone is totally different. So myself and Vaughn train together, but our volume is not exactly the same because we are different people. This is something that you will only learn as you become more experienced in training, or as you've been working with us for longer, you can see. Some people are freaks. Some people's volume in their sessions, like I'll use my bikini client, Chloe, as an example. She's quite an athletic person, but her volume can be really high and all her biofeedback's fine. So some people, yes, you go higher volume, other people's will be lower. But as you get closer to the show, pull it down where needed. Mm-hmm. The big one as well, as you get in, so reducing sets and everything, it could also be needed from other examples. So if you, as I was saying with my lower back, starts to get a little bit of issues, I don't really know why it is, but as I get leaner, what you can do is go to more stable positions. So you can move your movements as long as they're still working the same body part. So you wouldn't just go, right, I'm aiming for my back here, I'm waiting to put in a cable lat raise. So make sure you're still keeping the same amount of sets, but you can change movements. Mm-hmm. Now, after the volume, what we want to look at is rep schemes. Now, this one, you're going to be like, oh my God, what is he speaking about? Or not this again. But your rep scheme should vary. It's not the 80s. We're not doing 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps. Or if you are, please stop. We should be aiming to get strong across rep ranges. So we'll work anywhere from 6 reps, probably up to 30 plus if you look at some of our rest pause sets, drop sets, etc. And we want to be strong across that. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that you've got varying levels throughout your workout. Also with that, and this is something that I personally think, but if it's a bigger movement like an RDL, there's going to be more things to break down as you do it. You're probably not going to do a 25 rep RDL. Some people might, and they might get away with it, but I'd say you're going to get more bang from your buck aiming for positions that are locked in. So a hamstring curl, for example. And this is something I see a lot when it's like people squatting and they're doing crazy amounts of reps, but you've got to look at your bang for your buck. With a big movement, are you going to continue to be able to continue to contract throughout? So that's where the rep ranges will differ. Personally speaking, when we program, your loading movements will tend to be 6 to 8. They could go to 10 to 12 maybe at a push, and then on your blood volume work, it'll be a fair bit higher. So make sure your rep schemes are differing across the workout depending on what's needed. It's also things like, personally speaking for me, my delts, I will always work in a higher rep range. I find it just works better for me. Everyone's different. Mm-hmm. Now, Vaughn also covered this, but it covers all of it, but consistency, and what I mean by that is actually sticking to the plan. But this is another one. As bodybuilders, people all want this like secret formula. I've been following the same training plan, well, up until lockdown because my equipment changed. I've been following the same workout for a year, and that's with us changing gym as well. We train at a different gym now. My program's the same because it's progressing. If you're 4 weeks out from a show and you just randomly throw in a deadlift that you've not done in 5 years, it's not a good idea. And I see this a lot where it's people chop and change their workouts, but you have to make sure you're being consistent with movements that you do very well. So try and have a workout as well. When you get coached by us, you will have that. But if you're doing it yourself, don't try and just switch stuff up to like stupid movements mid prep, because it does happen and it's not going to be a good idea, especially as you're getting leaner. Recovery is not as good. Sometimes you're not as in the zone because we've got less calories, less energy. Doing big movements that are coming out of nowhere is a recipe to get injured. So try not to do that. Adherence. And also I'm going to throw in this one, enjoyment. So when we program, also enjoyment does come into it, but your adherence to an effective training plan is going to be somewhat more important than the exact movements, because if you're half-assing some of your sets, it's not that good. For example, at the moment, a lot of people don't have that much equipment, so everyone's barbell squatting. If you hate barbell squatting and you can't barbell squat, your biomechanics aren't great for it, don't do it. Like, it's not going to be effective. So your adherence has to be there, and enjoyment. Clara shot.
Oh no!
Right, okay.
I sped mine's up thinking, "Fuck, we've got a lot to get through." And Ali's just went on for fucking ages.
Oh, sorry. Well, I've not got a clock in front of me. I only had one more bit, which was cardio. I've got notes, but I can send the notes to everyone, by the way. So cardio, because Vaughn obviously pointed that out. Everyone's favorite bit, cardio. Your cardio is the same as your training. It's progressive. We want to get the most amount of fat loss out of the least amount of work. So at the start, not everyone needs cardio, by the way, or needs as much, but at the start, keep it as little as possible and then taper up as you go. Don't just go jumping in it an hour and a half on the Stairmaster every day, because you're going to hit a point where you've got nowhere to go. So with the cardio, think about it exactly the same. Also, cardio, this is a big one for me and my clients, and this is something I've done before. Just because you're on a Stairmaster does not mean you're working hard. Make sure your cardio is done as exactly the same as your actual training. You have to go in and actually want to achieve something. So get on your cardio machine, whatever you're doing, and actually train hard. I will leave the next to Clara because I did have more, but
I'm sure, I don't even know how long my part is going to be, but hopefully everyone will find it insightful. I suppose the aspect that I'm going to cover is the psychology behind or the mindset of getting stage lean. But I suppose whenever I'm talking about being stage lean, I'm also referring to getting photo shoot ready. But I'll just speak about it specifically to competing. So the main challenges that you find in your mindset or in like kind of the psychology of getting stage lean are obviously the lack of energy that comes with it over time, the hunger, the lethargy, like the lack of wanting to do anything, as well as the changes in moods and interests. Now, this is completely normal. And the last three that I've got there, the food focus, the appearance focus, and the outcome focus, are going to be normal too, to an extent, but there's a really thin line between where they become useful tools and where it becomes a detrimental tool to your mindset during prep, and to making sure that essentially at the end of it, you come out not in a completely fucked position, that you're actually, you know, in a really good place mentally in order to go into a longer off season. So one of the most important things to reflect on, I think, is that competing shouldn't be seen as a threat to your ego, to your self-esteem, as a threat to your business. You should look at it as a challenge that you're willing to undertake. And it's really important to make sure that that happens. It's really important to make sure that you've got markers of success outside of your show day placing. So thinking a bit about how are you going to make sure that it's been a successful prep, irrespective of what happens after stepping on stage. Like, what are you looking at throughout the prep process to make sure that at the end, before you've stepped on stage, you're already fucking proud, and whatever happens there is just like a cherry on top. And yeah, what do you need to do to make sure that you feel proud of yourself, irrespective of placing throughout the process of prep and on show day? And as I said, they like make sure that self-esteem is not riding on that placing. I know that as you get more competitive and as you kind of progress through the federations and set bigger goals, part of your self-esteem will be integrated in who you are, into you being a bodybuilder. But just make sure that you're not just a bodybuilder, that there's far more happening around your life that will allow you to continue to propel yourself forward. So these are some questions that I think are important for you to ask yourself, or for a coach to ask their client, or starting a prep, especially to make sure that food and appearance focus, again, don't go past that thin line between healthy and unhealthy. So questions like, are you overly preoccupied with food before you've even started dieting? Are you able to comfortably have an off-plan meal in your off season without freaking out? Are you able to manage yourself around food environments? And similarly, do you feel like you are enough as a person before you start dieting, before you start getting lean, when you are holding more body fat in your body? So just considering some of these questions, just because obviously as prep becomes, harder and harder, as you get leaner and leaner, you're just going to be thinking about food and your appearance far more. So making sure that all these things are in place before you even start, and that you can check up on them as you go through the process, is going to be really important.
Clara,
Yes.
maybe touch on, remember how you checked in every day?
Yeah.
You go from one day saying, oh my God, I'm so fat,
to the other day feeling fine. I've got a note on that later too for coaches. So in terms of for athletes, a lot of athletes who are starting a prep for the first time, or even going to the second prep. I remember when I started my second prep, I was like, shit, I know I've done it before, but can I do it again? So you'll hear this over and over, but you need to know why you're doing it. You need to have a ground solid reason of why you're going to put yourself through an 18-20 week dieting phase. And it shouldn't be focused on the outcome. It should be about the process. So ask yourself something like, what do I expect to gain out of this prep process? What do I want to put in? What am I expecting to put in? And what I want to take out? Equally, it's really important to understand that prep is your choice. You'll hear it again. Prep is a privilege. You're choosing to diet. So rather than feeling really sorry for yourself, because there will be days where you feel fucking sorry for yourself, you need to just get a bit of perspective and understand that you're choosing to do that. You have the privilege and the opportunity to do something that not many people can do. So appreciate it and just shift your mindset. Take the focus away from, oh, I'm so hungry right now, to, no, this is short term. I will get through this and I'll achieve what I want to achieve. Kind of in line with that, I think that using daily box ticking is really important, more so just to prove to yourself that you can get through even 100% of the worst days, or what you feel like are the worst days of your life, especially on days where you don't feel like doing anything. You're starving from the minute that you wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and you're starting to wonder whether, getting up is appropriate at that time. Make sure that daily you're looking at things that you have successfully done, and use that as feedback to remind yourself that you are capable of doing that, which is, I think, why a lot of competitors take to journaling throughout a prep journey, and then sort of continue that into their off season, because it's a really nice reminder that actually I can do this. And the reflections that you take down, they'll just remind you of the small things that can help you kind of get through those harder days. And my last point here for athletes is that it's so important to surround yourself with the right type of crowd, the right type of people. It doesn't mean you only have to hang out with people who are into bodybuilding. I think that it's really important to have a bit of a balance, so that your head just doesn't get too far up your ass. But equally, make sure that whoever you have in your circle is helping you become a better version of yourself, and isn't like questioning your decisions, isn't trying to put you down, isn't trying to make you feel shit for wanting to improve yourself in some shape or form. And I'll move on now to things that I think coaches need to consider when they start working with an athlete in a prep phase, and throughout the working process. So the first one is, I think it's really important for you to be kind and compassionate, but be bold. Vaughn, you said this earlier. If you've not prepped yourself, I don't think you have any business in prepping someone, because you just don't know how it feels. You just don't know how shitty it can feel. You won't appreciate the hunger. you know, the lack of energy, the tiredness, and the discipline it requires. So I think everyone should have been there before prepping someone. And you need to remember that your client isn't paying you for you to be a friend. They're paying you to get them stage lean. Doesn't mean you should be a dick, but find the right balance. And different clients have different needs. Some clients need you to check in with them every day for 8 weeks. Others might need a bit less, but you know, it's important for you to be there for them throughout the whole process, and say what you mean, basically. Assess where your client's head is at. So I think that this is important for kind of housekeeping, and it goes back to those questions about food focus, appearance focus, and just having a check-in at times where you don't really ask too much about training and nutrition, where you just say, you know, how are you feeling? And just go back to those important things like, well, how will we know if we're succeeding in the process of prep before we even get you to stage? And I think it gives you a good way of touching base with your client in the process of getting them ready for stage. And also for coaches, you focus on the process. There's no point in you telling your client not to worry about placing, focus on the process, if all you're thinking is, I need them to place, I need them to do this. And if you're putting a lot of pressure on them, obviously it will depend with the type of clients, if they've competed before, if they actually have the potential to do really well. But you know, don't put more pressure on your client on the outcome. Still put pressure for them to execute the process, but not so much on the outcome. Let me check time. I'm actually doing okay. Hopefully I'm not speaking too quickly. And yeah, I think something that most people, at least from the outside, admire about anyone who's dieted for a show or for a shoot is that you seem to come across as being like really mentally strong and just able to be the super resilient, mentally tough person. And most of us, unless you're born and hate eating, most of us do kind of struggle with food and energy, and kind of like sometimes you just want to eat everything in sight. But if you want to compete, probably not the best thing to do. So a few important reminders are that food's always going to be there. You're only dieting for, you know, a short period of time. You're not going to diet forever. And pizza, I promise, is not going anywhere anytime soon. So you can actually make the choice. And remember, it's your choice to just say no for a short period of time. It is going to be hard, but you can make it easier on yourself too. So if you love peanut butter, don't fucking buy peanut butter, because all you're going to do is look at it from the cupboard, like with your eyes and just like drooling. You know, don't be silly. Just, you know, make it easier on yourself. Do yourself a favor. People who bake during prep, I don't know how the fuck they do it, but just, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't advise. Make it easier on yourself, because it's going to be hard, basically. As I said before, dieting is very short term in the long-term scale of bodybuilding. If you look at someone, I mean, Von, you, for example, you competed, was it 2017, and you didn't step on stage again until 2020. You know, the amount of time that you spent dieting versus the amount of time that you spent in a calorie surplus, you know, it's completely different. And dieting just looks so short in that time scale. In the moment, sometimes you'll be like, holy shit, 3 weeks, I've still got 3 weeks to go. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, if you love the sport, if you're in it for the long term, it really isn't that long. And I talk about this all the time, but I think that it's really important to assess your self-talk constantly. If every day you're looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking, I'm not going to be ready, or I look shit, or questioning yourself, and you're not voicing those things to anyone else for them to nip it in the bud, such as a coach, i.e. Vaughn, for 8 weeks with me, some days more than others. But no, I do think it's really important to make sure that you're assessing your self-talk and that you are listening into it. And if it's not helping you, just bounce it off someone else, and their feedback to you should help you basically be like, right, okay, I'm getting in my head. I know I'm getting in my head. Let's just focus on the task at hand and crack on with the day. So make sure that you're not just like ignoring it or getting too in your head without expressing it outwardly. And then don't overcomplicate the if it fits your macros approach or abuse the bro diet. I know that when I diet, or I mean at any point, because I'm vegan, Vaughn, you just give me macros and I much prefer it. I do my own food, but I still pretty much eat the same shit 7 days a week. Why? Because I don't want to overcomplicate it. Is it nice sometimes in a dieting phase to be able to be a bit more flexible, especially at the beginning? Absolutely. But if you're trying to fit in halo top and chocolate, when you're 2 weeks out, that's just daft. Don't do it. It's silly. And equally, don't abuse the bro diet. You don't need chicken, rice, and broccoli 6 times a week to get into stage shape. That's very, very, very old school. As Ali said, it's the same thing as 8 to 10 reps, 4 sets. So yeah, bullshit stuff. No need for it. And then, yes, just some final thoughts from my end. I said this last week, if all you want is a trophy, don't do it. It's just not worth it. It is so not worth it. You can't skip the process. You can't skip the hard days. You can't skip the minging cardio. You can't skip the amazing days either. So if all you want is the outcome, just don't even bother. Find something else, because it's just not worth it. And I think I've sort of spoken about this throughout the whole spiel here, but there's so much more to getting lean and getting stage lean than just that. It's the process. It's what you come out of with at the end, and you'll develop so many really important personal skills, I think, in that process, that it's just, you just can't skip it. You can't skip the good and the bad. As to some of the things that you will develop are discipline, pride, self-confidence, mental strength, grit, self-admiration, and you should be proud once you finish this whole process too. And then just some quotes that I really like that I think summarize prep pretty well. So be naive enough to start and stubborn enough to finish. I love that, especially for first-time competitors. Another one that says the ultimate reason for setting goals is to entice you to become the person it takes to achieve them. Set yourself some big fucking goals and grow in the process of getting there. And finally, in complete exhaustion, you'll find the most honest version of yourself. So in the really fucking shit days, at the end of them, when you reflect back, and the day after when you wake up feeling 10 times better, that's when you can be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That's pretty fucking cool. And then you'll find that actually translates to so many other areas of your life. I think that's me. So over to yous.
Yeah, and I think out of the three of us, I probably talked the least, which is
that's a shocker.
I was like, oh, I got to hurry it up, and now you guys just went off on one, which is fun. Now there hadn't been too much questions, so what I thought, Ali, from that PowerPoint last year, we have slides that are about changes that someone can make on the way down, and then also we can kind of cover refeed / carb loads real quick.
Yeah.
Because I know there is some coaches on the call, and that one I put up a Liam, the difference, the other day, loads of people were like, "Oh my God, how do you do that?"
Yeah, I've just got one question anyway. So if you cover that, and then I can, I suppose, pull that up.
Right. Okay. Cool. No worries. Right. So let me get rid of this here. View from current slide. I'm going to go back and forth on this one, but in regards to sort of changes you would make along the way, once you've initially got your sort of set calories and your set cardio, there's different options of what you can do to elicit a response, right? So example one could be, for example, that you want, you make no food change, and maybe you'd add an additional maybe 2,000. Sometimes, if I'm honest, I wouldn't even add that in. I would just up the cardio by this. Example two, you could have 100 calorie drop a day, no output changes. And again, these are just guidelines for you to follow. Your client perhaps might need 150 calories to drop a day. They might only need an extra 20 minutes of cardio and only 1,000 steps. These are just guidelines for you to follow. Example three, 100 calorie drop, increase 30 minutes of cardio. And then example four, throw the fucking kitchen sink at it and change everything, because it's more than likely that you're behind. Now, I just don't know why I came off that there, but what are you aiming for? So 0.5 kind of kilo drops per week would be very ideal. So that's why, if, for example, now this isn't a great example because Clara, we had 11 kilos to take off. We did it in 18 weeks. But the difference is I knew Clara dropped very, very quickly. So I knew we didn't need that. But for anyone, you want to try and give them okay, right, if we have 10 kilos to take off, and we take off half a kilo a week, that's 20-week diet, right? But the starter prep, the drops will always be bigger. Clara, I'm sure that you dropped like a kilo a week for the first few weeks, and then it plateaued.
Yeah, and it plateaued really quickly. But then as soon as we started making changes, like a bit more dramatic changes, it was pretty steady actually last year from what I remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when someone gets extremely lean, you really don't want any more than half a kilo coming off, because you are eating into tissue if that's the case. Unless they're maybe an assisted male bodybuilder on the flip side of that. Don't throw the kitchen sink at them at first, right? Get the most from the least. Like, make a small change, get as biggest response as you can for it, because at the very end, you are throwing the kitchen sink at them, right? You need to get them ready. Not everyone, like, I mean, for the most part, 3 weeks out, I was still doing 3 cardio sessions a week, right? But I'm different than Clara was doing, about 45 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day. So it's completely different again upon, male or female, genetics, metabolism, you name it. Refeeds, these will kind of coincide with carb loading, so I might as well just cover them. You are going to strategically increase your carbs or fat on these given days, but you're only really going to do this if someone's ahead, someone's behind. Don't get me wrong, will I use them to elicit more fat loss? 100%, but only if dietary induced fatigue is very high, and we're seeing that through biomarkers, or just through knowing how fucked someone is, right? You'll not need these early on at all, but 100% you're going to use them in the later stages of prep, especially as a kind of almost a trial carb load. But I would always keep the refeed day consistent on which day you do it. So if you always load on a lower body day, always load on a lower body day. Don't then change it to, okay, next week we load on a push day. Always keep it the same. But all it really does is it acts as a weekly bump up of calories. How I describe it is, I say, imagine you're digging a hole, right? And you're shoveling out dirt, or soil. And then what are the refeeds going to do? The refeeds just like where you pour in some sand, right? So the sand's really fine. It gets in between the soil. It doesn't really top up that hole. But what the sand allows you to do, it allows you to dig quicker. That's how you can look at the idea of a refeed. You got to think of the mental perspective as well, how much of a boost that is, and someone will train harder with a bit more food in the system. So how are you going to start? What are you going to do? Now, I've said start conservatively. So let's say, for example, as a female, you're going to give them an extra maybe 250, depending on how muscly they are, an extra 500 grams of carbs on top of what they're having, right? But I've got some male assisted bodybuilders who I topped up Sam today at 750 grams of carbs, and if it wasn't for the case of last week I saw he was a bit watery, or he held on to water for 3 days after load, I would have loaded him again at the same load today. But we have a shoot on Sunday, so I didn't do it. I'm just going to run him low today, maybe tweak, put a bit more in tomorrow. Again, that's just looking and assessing daily. Addition of fats will slow things down if they drop too quick. Like, I've seen guys I've put in 600 grams of carbs, 3 days later they dropped 2 pounds below where their weight was. I'm like, we need more carbs and we need more fats on those days. As I say, I can get away with higher male bodybuilder. Can also be used when fat loss stall. I kind of just described that in the sense of the whole putting the sand in the hole to allow you to dig a little bit quicker. I always would do, always check weight condition pre-feed, post-feed. So see in the morning, see where the weight's at, look at their photo, but then the next day, see how much it's went up, look at their conditioning, I put sign of metabolic efficiency, see how quickly they can fire through it, and then make a judgment, make an assessment, and see how many days it takes to come back down to where it was pre-feed and then drop below. And then that'll allow you and tell you, are you going to be able to feed that a little bit more? Sorry, I just saw I'll ask the question, but I'll keep moving on. If hit a new low within a 7-day period, there's always sort of scope to push again, but go a little bit more grams of carbs and maybe perhaps an extra sort of 20 grams of fat on top of that. That was just an example of a refeed I gave to, that was a physique guy. So as you can see, like 650 protein kept constant, and then fat was in a quite moderate place. That's not that high whatsoever. But the foods that we used was just foods that you could digest super easy. So you guys got anything to add to that before I go into refeeds?
No, just making sure that it's foods that you can digest well, and that if you're, especially as a bikini girl, I remember like one of my first feeds, we put in like 375 grams of carbs, and I just made sure that they were all foods that you said that you can digest well, that are not going to make you bloat heaps, and like don't be tempted to suddenly, if you've not been eating anything like a specific food, to just put in something completely different, because your gut will just be like, what the fuck, and then your condition the day after won't be reflective necessarily of how your body's responded, because your gut might be up the creek.
Ali?
The only thing I would add in would be remember it's very person dependent, because when that's what I said in the chat there, but when we work with people, we will most likely have them early and we'll trial it. But like, just because you might know some bikini girl that had 1,000 grams of carbs, never. But just because you think you know that, don't then try and just do what other people do. It is very person dependent.
Yeah, and don't compare yourself either. I think, and sorry, I know we're kind of running out of time, but I think a lot of people can be really guilty of being like, oh, but this person is dieting on these many calories, and why am I on far more cardio and far less food? Sorry, it's just your body. You look exactly that. Like, no one cares how much food you're going on to stage with. It's not a competition about calories and macros and cardio. It's about who looks best on the day and who shows up. So
the reason it doesn't matter as well, when I was prepping last year, Vaughn loaded me on, I think, 650, and one of my bikini girls was doing the same show, and I had to load her on 850 because we kind of pulled her down too much. So it can happen.
Ali, that was one day. We loaded you.
Well, it was 12. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. Next part, refeed, because we've got 5 minutes, I think.
Sorry, we could run a little bit over.
Oh, sweet.
But anyway, yeah. Next one. Listen, carb loading. This will be the sort of last thing before we answer any questions. So, any questions, guys? Ask them in the Q&A box before we will sort of sign off after this for the evening. Now, carb loading. You know, most of you saw the example I put up on my story the other day of Liam. If you didn't, this is going to be a case study example of exactly what the purpose is of a carb load. You know, you may have seen myself, right, eat 22 Pop-Tarts over the course of 2 days when I was carb loading for my show. And really, you're probably wondering, well, why the hell are you doing that? So what are we trying to do? Well, as we diet down, we will pull out muscle glycogen out of muscle itself. Now, what that will do is, if it's present within the muscle and it's sort of maxed out, the muscle belly will look fuller, like it will pop that a little bit more. Pop, you could say, is a word. So, as I said, purpose to fill up muscle bellies, top up muscle glycogen. But it's really to emphasize the shape of that tissue. So, for example, if someone was doing like a most muscular, right? Those of you who don't know, it's just the guys that stand like this, right? I would be looking at like their arms, their delts, and their chest, and you'll see Liam here in a minute. He's actually not doing a most muscular, so that was a bad example of just kind of right before I feed them. What does it look like? How do and if you're a coach and you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what I'm looking for. That was me back in 2018. First client ever prepped, Chris Bain. He was like, Vaughn, I'm feeling a bit flat, and I went, right, okay. And then I went about and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I sat down and I got up photographs and I loaded them and I compared back and I went, oh yeah, wow, I see that change now. So it took a lot of just trial and error on working with lots of individuals to then now, like, a client will check in with a video and I'll just be like, you're flat. You need to eat a little bit more. As we said before, we should have numbers from sort of previous trial carb ups, and you should be going into that show knowing exactly what that number of calories, carbs, fats, proteins, whatever, does to that individual. But just continue to monitor. So once they've eaten a couple of meals, midday, send a photo over, send check-in photos or videos. The same in the evening, right? With guys, it might be every meal. With females, it might be morning, noon, and night. It might be morning and night. Again, it totally depends. So 3-4 check-ins across the day. Understand they might appear softer, so know when to pull back. There's a difference between being soft and just being really, really full. And you'll see that here in a second. But I've had to do it before, and it's a fucking horrible feeling, or it's horrible for the client to have to tell them to not eat and be like, nah, you've had enough. You're good. Don't eat for the rest of the day. And they're like, oh, what? Had 3 Pop-Tarts left to eat? No, don't eat them. You don't need them, right? So this is a case study example. Liam gave me the okay to use this last year in seminar. He'll be watching this back on YouTube. He couldn't make it tonight. So Liam, if you're watching, thank you for this. This is the exact load we used last year. Going into his first show, PCA Scotland, PCA Northeast, I think it was, and he came second in junior. Should have came first, but his posing was shit, and I know you won't mind me saying that. He just needed to work on it. So as you can see, for him, I knew he looked at his best after this day here, right? So after I'd given him the quarter pounder and the chips and whatnot, as you could see, fats were super low here, and I bumped them up a little bit. That's still fairly low in my opinion. The fats before my show were up at say 150, but I'm 102 kilos lean. Liam's 72, so it's really relevant to the individual, right? Whereas my loads, I'll have maybe 1,000 to 1,200 grams of carbs. With Liam, it was different, right? We loaded him at 540, low fats. This here did, honestly, not a whole lot. You'll see it did a little bit. This here did the fucking magic trick. So this is what he looked like on the Thursday morning, right? Added in his weight as well. Now with Liam, the thing that kind of showed me how full he was here, and then just this area here. I mean, you can see it. Look at it. Look at the arms on the guy. Look at the delts. Look at the chest, right? So we loaded him. This was him Thursday evening. So as you could see, the food at night, he's always going to look a little bit softer, right? Because of the food that's been in the system. He's eating 540 grams of carbs. But just look how vascular he was, right? He sent me that, and I was like, we're going to need to put in more tomorrow, right? And I just added in a week. This is the messages that I was sending to him on the day. So in case of the example, that's exactly what I was saying to him. Friday morning, we woke up. So if we go back, there's really not a whole load of difference between this here and that, really, apart from half a kilo. You know what I mean? So again, it gave me the idea in my head about we need to put in a bit more. Because originally I planned very similar load, but we put in a bit more. We used to kind of go, it was 540, and then I think it was high 400s, but I bumped it up, and you'll see that it worked. It worked a treat. So this was him Friday evening. Now he sent me this, and I went literally, he's full as a house. I went, we've not pushed it too far, right? Because I knew I could still see here. Everything across the chest was fine. So although he looks, in what you'll see, he looks visually like he's not as lean, it's just a little bit of water from the excess carbs that have went in. That's all. That's all it is, right? And I think I said to him, wait till tomorrow. There we go, right? That's exactly what I said. That we wouldn't need much food tomorrow from seeing this, and that he was full to the brim and just continue eating. So what can change overnight? You know, this is my favourite part, is the peaking process and the carb load. This was him here on the Thursday night. That was him on the Saturday morning of the show. And I think I messaged him just saying, we'd fucking nailed it. So you could see that although it may appear he's not as big here, he is, right? If you've got an eye for it. But just look how he's still got those same sort of lines that we wanted. He's not really got a pump on, so he's not looking as vascular right now. But condition-wise, everything was there. So that was him on the Thursday morning. That was him 15 minutes before we went on stage. We were still chatting, still talking back and forth, of what to do. And then at this point, I was just nailed it. I don't think we could have got him any leaner. We did load him a bit more into the UKUP show 2 weeks later, and he was softer, right? So I think that this for us was perfect. Maybe this is more zoomed in. If we zoomed in here more, I think the difference in his face is hilarious. The tan. And maybe if he was actually trying, Like maybe we could have gotten a little bit fuller here in the arms and whatnot, but just like look at that waist, like absolutely tiny. And then he went on. This was actually him on stage. So like if you look at that there, you think he looks flat, but then look at him on stage. Everything was just popping where it needed to be, and I was like, we just couldn't look any better, which I was super happy about. So I hope that helps with sort of carb loading and whatnot. There don't appear to be any questions. You guys got anything you want to say to wrap off? Clara, you go first, then Ali.
I think that's it from me. I mean, there's so much more. Clearly, we could speak about this for fucking ages. So if any questions do pop into mind kind of after this, just feel free to message us individually if it's about one of our parts, or just like drop us a line and either of us can answer it for you.
Ali?
Yeah, the only question I got asked, and this one's a bit of a, whoever asked this, it's an okay question, but the question was, I'm worried, I'm doing a way to start my first prep next year, and I'm really worried about losing tissue.
Well,
if you're really worried about losing it, chances are there's probably something in your brain telling you don't train hard enough. But throughout prep, yeah, you might lose a bit of tissue, depending as well. But you're trying to minimize how much tissue gets lost, basically.
Absolutely. I had a question that was about posing and when a competitor should start. It was from specifically a female, so rather than answer from a male bodybuilding perspective, I'm just going to shoot that over to Clara.
Start posing as early as possible. Like the minute that you know that you want to compete, that's when you should start thinking about posing. Know what federation you want to compete with. If you're not sure, stalk every single one of them, look at the photos of the people who have won their shows, and just start, posing. Inquire. There's I'm a posing coach for bikini, so if that's the category you're going for, let me know and I'll be able to help you with that. But yeah, the minute that you know that you're competing, get on it, because shows are won and lost on posing. Some people look incredible backstage, but then they're scared shitless and can't pose when they're on the stage, and even though they have an amazing physique, it's not enough to win a show, because ultimately you need to present the physique in a way that judges want to see it.
For those of you that know that I competed back in March, I went and saw my posing coach May the year before. And I had a session once a month, every month, or one, into my show. What did that force me to do in between seeing her?
Yes.
Practice. Now, if you're a male bodybuilder or perhaps you're a figure athlete, you got to do a routine. In all honesty, that's the only part of competing I actually like, the routine. The mandatories, I'm not a huge fan of them in classic physique, but I look okay in some of them, you could say. So what I would say is, yeah, it's just as important. Like, people will be willing to pay a coach X amount and they'll learn to pose 8 weeks out. And I'll say this, and he'll be fine with me saying it. My client Anthony last year lost out on getting a first call out because he couldn't pose for shit. Right? And that's me being brutally honest. And he came off the stage, and I told him that.
Yeah.
I think I told him in a nicer way.
Yeah. I
just went, mate, you are breathing out your fucking ass up there after one quarter turn.
Yeah.
But he was just as conditioned as the guys. But the other guys could hold it more, could smile, whereas he'd done it once and then he was, and his lower abs were distending. Which
I think as you said there, like, it's as important, like, especially when you're prepping to, it's just another box to be ticked. You train, you pose, you do your cardio, you do your steps, you eat your meals. It needs to be part of it. And trust me, you will not feel like posing, even if it's for 10 to 15 minutes after training legs on fucking poverty calories before doing 45 minutes on the Stairmaster, but you need to do it. Because if you want to do well, and if you want to give yourself a chance at feeling confident and enjoying the process and feeling like you're doing the best that you can on stage, I mean, genuinely, dieting for that long to not know how to pose would be such a shame. And I did that my first show. I had no fucking clue what I was doing on that stage. I loved it, but it's embarrassing to look back. But hindsight. So yeah, definitely start early and contact a coach ASAP.
It's important as well, because I was going to use a case study of her, but I've not put it in because I didn't have time. But my client Chloe, when she won her UQP Pro. They've got a video of her on stage winning, and she hates it because there's a few bits in the posing where she's just not as smooth as she should be. Now that tells you what sort of person she is, that she's won a trophy, and she's a bit annoyed at the video. But she's now in her off season done posing more because it's a big thing. Like, you see it a lot. Vaughn says that, like, people get on stage, got a really good physique, but they can't actually get in position. I'm probably one of them as well. So it is very, very important.
Now, I'm just going to answer a quick question here. Chloe asked it. I'm just going to show you this real quick here. In all honesty, I really don't play about with salt or water loading at all. I'll use like MPH expel or H2 remove. So water intake across the week will stay exactly the same until this day, right? So say, for example, bikini girl might be having 4 litres of water a day, right? So ignore that. 4 litres of water, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ, here we go. 2 seconds. Bikini girl might be having 4 litres of water a day. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get up this. We're going to get this up.
It says water in there.
Right. This is the exact same protocol on this slide, right? So these are the 2 products that we use. The water, like, we would keep that the same until one day out. So let's say, for example, Clara's having 4 litres of water every single day, and the show's on the Saturday. 4 litres of water every single day till the Thursday, and then on the Friday, the day before the show, 2 litres, right? Or there or thereabouts. But then on the Friday morning, as you can see, we've kind of really ramped up the diuretics and the vitamin C. You can see Friday's total there versus the Thursday and the Tuesday starting at 6, 9, because I just feel that actual water loading itself, it can either be done very, very well or done very, very shit. And it's going to give you an extra like 1%, which of course people are like, yeah, that extra 1%, can do the water, but like, I'm going to water load a bikini girl, right? I'm a classic physique guy. I didn't water load, right? I suppose, I think the question was more just what do we do for dry water-wise. Okay, yeah, cool. So apologies, I was pure thinking in my head it was water loading. No, yeah, so we just cut it the day before. We'll keep it constant. Again, keep as many variables constant as you can, because the more that you change, the more that can go wrong. Yeah. Right. I think that will be it from us. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this as much as we have delivering. This will be on YouTube for anyone that wants to rewatch it, catch up. I'll probably pop it up there tomorrow. If you could all do us a favour, I know that maybe Ali's not done his hair tonight, he's wearing a hat, but if you're able to just take a wee photo on your phone, pop it up on Instagram, tag one of us in it. I brushed my hair for this, as you can see. It's receding. And listen, if you have any sort of private questions, you want to reach out to one of us, please do so. For those of you who are speaking about posing, this Sunday I'm getting on Emma Heineman on the podcast to speak about posing and whatnot, so that'll be live as of next week. Make sure that you check out the podcast I done with Georgie, who was in this chat earlier on. We spoke about first-time competitors. And if you are thinking of competing, listen, we have 2 programs available for you to download on the website. All you got to do is click on there. There's a free bikini girl rotation and there's a free male push-push leg split. All you got to do is just fill in. I think you just give your email address, you download it. Bob Jungle Fanny's your aunt. You can. That will be gym-based. Why? The gyms will reopen. All right, they will reopen one day. So we're not just going to give you a bikini girl program that's for you training at home, right? Because that's what we'll do for our clients at the current moment. But yeah, guys, hope you've enjoyed as much as we have, and take care. Or
Thank you so much.
What we should end it, we should all, like, as an end podcast, I should all, like,
give it the beans.
Always say, if you are, whatever you do, give it the beans.
Give it the beans.